Welcome and thank you for joining our session. I'm Mike Haney, Head of Digital Core for Technisys, and I'm here with Stewart Stockdale, Co-founder, Chairman, and CEO of Rellevate, a recently launched challenger bank and innovator serving those Americans that need it most. Thank you for being here with us today, Stewart.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate you having us, both Rellevate as a new company and myself. Thank you for having us. Glad to be here.
Stewart, if anyone understands the financial needs of middle-income Americans, it's you. You've spent years of your career at non-banking financial institutions, targeting customers who are largely underserved by the traditional banks. This includes being both CEO of J.G. Wentworth, as well as president of Western Union. I also noticed you spent significant time volunteering with the United Way, and you're the chairman of Gleaner's Food Bank. So what made you want to make this shift from an earlier career with some of the world's most recognizable brands, including Citi, American Express, and MasterCard, firms which may have not historically had such a focus on the needs of middle-income Americans?
Yeah, I spent time with some big institutions. I was very fortunate to start my career in some of these Goliaths of companies, and they were great learning institutions. I left MasterCard after we didn't take it public that first time around, and I moved to the Midwest to become the CMO of a large middle America insurance company that did mostly insurance products, but also had a big lending platform. And I really got to understand the whole psyche and world of middle America, which really weren't the sweet spot for, American Express or even MasterCard. So I got to know how do they pay bills? How do they make ends meet when they only make $50,000 a year? How do they prioritize between pay their insurance or their mortgage? And so really cash flow became a top of mind. And then of course I was fortunate to be president of Western Union, and that was a different lens. There you're talking to immigrants, migrants, people with low resources, but are sending money back home, and there it's regulatory compliance and that whole dynamic. So I really, and even at JG, which is really structuring company and giving cash flow to people that need it through their structured settlement. So I really got to understand it. And when I left JG and I was working with my co-founder, my CIO, that him and I have worked together for 22 years, we came up with what we think is the perfect solution for that mass, middle, lower income market, and that's Rellevate.
Fantastic. I imagine that this particular customer segment, a number of their challenges have been exacerbated by the times we're in, meaning the global pandemic. So how is Rellevate addressing some of their needs? And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of Rellevate's solutions, things like early wage access. Who exactly does this benefit, and how does this work?
When we dreamt up Rellevate, I'll be honest, the pandemic was not in sight, and we weren't really thinking about. But what we were thinking about is the needs of those that need it the most, those middle Americans that have a hard time making ends meet. And how do we offer products at fair prices? This population has not been well served by the big financial players, the big bank and financial institutions, and it's been left to money transmitters, payday lenders, and some of those what I call bottom feeders. The pandemic only has exacerbated that conversation, because if hourly employees were in desperate need before, they are now. About 70% of Americans are paid hourly. Many Americans can't afford an unforeseen expenditure. So, cash flow, use of cash are all top of mind to us. And what we thought we could do is offer real value by offering what I call a good funds model, but really offering financial value to those that need it most. And right now we've been operating through a pandemic, launching through a pandemic, but we've been incredibly well received. American Banker did a big story on us. Forbes did as well. More in the works. And so we just finished a capital raise. So it's a really, really good time for us, because we're offering real value to those that need it most, and more now more than ever.
Yeah, and I imagine that the coronavirus situation and the related recession are actually proving the value that you're bringing to your customers. But I'm glad that you brought up this, what we'll collectively call the money services businesses, the money transmitters, the payday lenders, the check cashing stores, and the like. I'm curious, why couldn't they move into the space that you're occupying? How is your solution different in many ways from what they're providing?
It's the first thing I'll say is the services that they offer are definitely needed, and because nobody else offers them, they do a pretty, they have a pretty good share. Whether it be a money transmitter, a payday lender, or whatever it may be, those are definitely needs in the market, and they're fulfilling it. I think what we think we can do is, go in and disrupt that and offer all those different products at really, really fair value, and offer a tremendous value proposition, lower the prices, and I think it's good for everybody. Competition is good, and we're another player. We're small, but we want to be big, and we want to make a difference. So I think that those guys charge the prices that they do because they can. And I think over time, if we could be more competitive, those prices will go down, and we'll gain share.
And how much do you think consumer behavior plays into this? Even in the traditional banking world, we're seeing less foot traffic in our branches. We're seeing mobile phone adoptions at extremely high rates. Is it the same happening in the world of money services businesses, where people are just less interested in walking into a physical storefront and conducting their business there when they can do it conveniently on their phone?
I think it's, at the end of the day, it's value and convenience, right? I mean, people want it, it has to be reliable. They have to be able to trust it, and that's really, really important. Is it affordable at a fair value, and is it convenient for me? And I think that's where people had to walk to go to a store to do a money transfer. Now you don't have to do that. You could do it through technology. You had to go to a bank branch. You don't have to do that anymore. You had to go to an ATM. You could still go to an ATM, but you could also transfer money now. So more and more, the virtual part of financial services is real. And that doesn't mean that some people still won't want to go to a money transfer provider or, an ATM or a retail bank, but you don't have to. And I think that, now technology is changing, and I call it the democratizing of financial services or consumer financial services, because all of this is offering tremendous choice for consumers. And the winners are going to be those that provide the best value at a really with high convenience.
Absolutely. Not only is Rellevate delivering these services in a uniquely digital and modern way, but I think the other story here is how you actually built the company Rellevate in a uniquely digital and modern way. Instead of feeling like you needed to build everything in-house and have a huge capital outlay, you've actually assembled a number of these services together using third-party providers in what I'll call composite banking. I'd like to have you take us through your thought process on why you thought this was the right way to build this company, and maybe name some of those partners and what kind of services they're providing you.
I call it the Federation of Rellevate. When you're two guys in a garage, Greg and I, regardless of how long we've been in the industry, it's tough to build a big business in the consumer financial services sector. So the first thing we did is built a really, really good team. I think it's a Fortune 500 type team, up and down our line. People have been there, done that, willing to roll up their sleeves and make things happen. And it's been phenomenal. They're all handpicked. They're all people I've known from the past, and we're off and running. And it's because of that team that we were able to attract really, really good and have the credibility to attract players and bring them to the table. We announced a relationship with Visa about a year ago. That's a two-pronged approach. It's a relationship with Visa and Visa DPS. But not all players were the biggest at this time. What we wanted was the best. So Visa is the biggest and the best. But I'll give you an example. Payveris, which is our bill pay provider, they're not the biggest and they're not the best known, but they are tremendously capable, and they're all API based, and they're really built on new technology. So the scalability, the integration, the API format is really allowed us to plug and play and run. Very complex. You're talking about a lot of money flowing back and forth. So flows of money is a really important within our kind of our little ecosystem. But that's an example of a player that really is phenomenal and isn't as well known as others. Your own firm, Technisys, is another one. I had known Technisys from a prior relationship. And when we launched and announced Rellevate, we met with some of your peers, and we said, okay, these are all of the things that we need to do. We need to be API based. We need to integrate with 5, 6, 7 players, and maybe more over time. We need to have this on the front end. We need to integrate this on the back end. All of the criteria. And very important is we knew exactly what we needed. We presented it. And you know what? Your people were receptive. They were receptive on the build. We understand the business requirements. We sat down a number of days to really go through that. And the key on these big monster projects is making sure that everybody understands and is willing to commit to what we've agreed to. And I think that's what really sold us on Technisys. And you know, it's been 7 months. I've worked with a lot of technology providers over my years. The relationship has been top, first class. That doesn't mean that we don't have disagreements. But on and on. So all of these players, we're talking to an arsenal, an ecosystem, if you say, but 100% on the front end looks and acts like Rellevate. And all of those pieces end up being interchangeable. And we'll add new ones and we'll take some out, but over time, Rellevate will be at the forefront.
I love that, because as you were building your team, these are folks that you've known for years. You knew what they were capable of. They kind of have a personal brand to you, and that builds trust. But often when you're going with firms that don't necessarily have a household name, it's good that like you had a set of attributes that you were looking for in a partner, and some of these new players were able to fulfill on those attributes. And I'm very proud that Technisys is part of that ecosystem. One of the things I find in this sort of digital revolution that we're still going through is a shift from focus on digital enabling operational efficiencies. How can I do things better, faster, and cheaper? How can I allow the customer to self-service himself, for example? But a lot of these platforms are now providing a platform for innovation, allowing firms like yourself to combine traditional banking products in unique and differentiated ways that we haven't seen before, taking deposit, lending, or payment products and putting them together in what I call combination experiences, such as early wage access or any of the solutions. I'm wondering if you could share with us a little of what's coming down the road for Rellevate in this space, or even what you're seeing in the industry in terms of new experiences for customers.
You know, all the 4 products that I talked about are industries unto themselves, and they've always historically been very siloed. And in fact, one of the key criteria that we had is that it had to be a common integration across all of these instead of kind of clunky and having to sign in, sign out, and so forth. So user experience was always at the forefront. We're looking to add other components. And what we're really looking to do is how do we add more value to the employer? All of our products are to consumers, but sold through employers. So the employer has to give us time and attendance for our early wage access product and so forth. You could come directly to Rellevate, but you wouldn't get the early wage access piece. So as we look to provide great value to employers, we also look to provide great value to employees. And you know, it becomes really sticky if we're able to get a company, and say a company has 10,000 employees and they're always, you know, offering Rellevate products on an ongoing basis. People will come and go, and so you're going to get a natural attrition, but somebody else comes in and they're now immediately exposed. So keeping the employer really happy and providing tremendous value. We want them to, you know, have happy customers, retention, satisfaction, being able to, you know, attract better employees and so forth. And then employees, you know, one of their biggest issues is really cash management. And so we could keep people happy with all of their financial needs. It's going to have them be more loyal with that particular employer. They'll end up leaving and going someplace else, and they'll take Rellevate with them, and they'll introduce us to somebody else. But anything that we do has to be a tremendous value to the consumer, who's, you know, consumer's king. And at the same time, you know, has to be greatly received by the employer. And I think that consumer financial service has typically not been sold through the employer distribution system, but insurance products have. So I think we're breaking ground and opening up this channel. And obviously we look to be, you know, successful. At least that's our hope.
Absolutely. And I think it's reflecting a trend that we're seeing, that an employer has a vested interest in keeping the employees not only healthy from a physical standpoint, but financially healthy as well, and getting more involved in providing products and services that help with the financial health of their employees. So Stewart, I'm really looking forward to seeing what's coming down the road at Rellevate. Absolutely want to thank you for your time today, and hearty congratulations on not only launching your company, but launching it during a global pandemic. So we wish your team nothing but success, and we look forward to continuing the journey with you. Stewart and I will be doing a live Q&A during the next networking break, and we hope you'll join us there and ask Stewart and myself any questions you might have about the Rellevate story and, of course, about Technisys. We wish you a great rest of your day. We hope to see you at the next Finovate Digital event. And thank you, Stewart, for spending this time with us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.